morning and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and I have to say this morning, I'm not feeling my happiest, and what makes it worse is we now have 2 weeks of the international break to just wallow in negativity. I really wanted to win that game yesterday, mostly because, 1, it's Liverpool, but also 2, we needed a win because we lost to Brighton, but 3, the worst time I think to lose is when you've got an international break, because then you've got 2 weeks going on a negative, particularly if you've actually just been battered 3-0 by Liverpool. And look, I like Ten Hag, and I've been very lenient with Ten Hag, and I've understood that this club has bigger issues than sacking managers every 2 years and going through the cycle. But one thing that really frustrates me about Ten Hag is his post-match comments. I feel like every time we lose, Ten Hag just doesn't answer the questions well in the post-match interview. He starts deflecting, he starts saying random nonsense, and he's saying, today, Ugarte might not play for months. He's saying Ugarte might not play for months, that he's not Harry Potter, that he's won trophies, and that we played all right because our XG conceded was lower and our XG was higher when we played crap, that we won 2 trophies and it's fine. And it's like, well, look, we lost 3-0. We deserve to lose 3-0. Yes, Xerxes could have scored 2 chances, but Szoboszlai could have scored 1 for them. Let's be honest, we didn't play well. We did get dominated. We got better in the second half, but they probably dropped off because they were 3-0 up. And look, I think there was some positives. I think despite conceding 3 goals, De Ligt had a good game. He wasn't at fault for any of the goals. It was that we lost the ball in midfield, and then because of the structure, there was so much space between the midfield and defence that the defenders just got run on 1v1 by multiple players in the transition, which made it literally impossible for the defence. They got exposed. I don't think De Ligt had a bad game. I don't think Delo had a bad game. I thought Amad was good when he came off the bench, and I think considering the circumstances, Collier did well. I thought Rashford had a good second half despite the boos. There was those positives, but it was pretty rubbish. Let's be honest, it was pretty crap, and Ten Hag is making nonsense comments like, Ugarte might not play for months. Why is he saying that? I don't know. We're going to talk about Erik Ten Hag. We're going to talk about the signings. We're going to talk about Casemiro. Casemiro has been speaking out online and, his rubbish performance, and Rabiot apparently is a free agent. United can still sign Rabiot. Apparently Eriksson could leave and Rabiot could come in next week in the international break. Some comments about Anthony Robinson to United and more. So, guys, please hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Share the videos. I want to get into Ten Hag's comments, and I do want to get into a few news stories as well. But look, I like Ten Hag and I want him to do well, and I think he can turn it around for sure. But I think when he makes the same mistakes over and over and over again, and the same problem with the midfield and the structure over and over and over again, it doesn't fill you with confidence. It's thinking this was last year's problem, it's now this year's problem. Now, I know Casemiro does not have the legs, and we looked a lot better when Collier was on the pitch, and I can see exactly why we need Manuel Ugarte. But I just think it just isn't a good sign. Maybe we've done the story Van Hacker, they will be like, Eric, look, the midfield isn't working. Because if we can all see the midfield is working, surely Ruud van Nistelrooy can see the midfield is working. But if Ten Hag doesn't fix up, Ruud van Nistelrooy will be our manager. Like, come Christmas time, if he does not change that. Let's be honest, Ruud van Nistelrooy is there to be Ten Hag's assistant, but we all know that Ruud van Nistelrooy was also probably brought in because he'll just become the manager if it doesn't work under Ten Hag. He'll just become the interim. He'll get given to the end of the year, and then summer, if Ruud van Nistelrooy does well, they might back him. If not, they might go elsewhere as well. It's the system, not the players, sack the fraud. It's a mixture of both, let's be honest. Casemiro wasn't good enough, but the system didn't help him. All 3 goals came from players giving the ball away because Casemiro is not good enough on the ball. But elements of Ten Hag's system doesn't help. This is what I mean. Casemiro's not good enough, and athletically, we are not as fit as Liverpool. And that element of it is on the players. But when we give the ball away in midfield, it is so easy for Liverpool to attack us and score because there's so much space between our midfield and defensive lines, and that is on the system as well. Is Ruud a good manager? Well, he came second with PSV and won a trophy, so he's not a bad manager. But look, it's a bit of a SOS. Some people are saying sack Ten Hag now. Look, losing to Liverpool 3-0 will never be okay. It will never be okay losing 3-0 to Liverpool, but I'm not going to say sack the manager now, end the season now. Look, I'm going to hope it can be restored. We've had a good window. We haven't seen Ugarte yet, although considering Ten Hag said Ugarte might not play for months, I don't know when we're going to see Ugarte. But there's lots of things there as well. People are saying, that offside versus Coventry is the only reason Ten Hag's still here, and that may be true as well. We looked no different. Collier, Liverpool just controlled the game in the second half because they'd already won. I thought we looked better with Collier. I mean, if you look at the statistics, Collier didn't give the ball away. Collier wasn't dribble past. Collier won all of his duels. I thought we looked better with Collier. I don't think Collier was groundbreaking amazing, but I think if you've never played a Premier League game And at half-time, Man United take the most experienced player off that's won multiple trophies because he's having an absolute mare in midfield. And you've been told, we're 2-0 down to Liverpool, our most experienced player can't do the job in midfield. Have your Premier League debut, try and do a job. That's horrible for Collier. That's horrible for Collier. And I thought he did a good job. I don't think he was like, whoa, he's the answer. But I thought, compared to Casemiro, he did a good job. And this is what I said on the Collier situation. And I do want to get into news. I do want to get into the stories. But I don't think you can be negative about Collier at all. I said this, making your Premier League debut, being thrown on at halftime against Liverpool when you're 2-0 down, replacing our most experienced player who was being overrun in midfield was never going to be easy for Collier. However, I thought he handled it well, considering the circumstances. 3 tackles won, 3 recoveries, created a chance, 7 out of 7 duels won. Casemiro won about 3 out of 9. 100% successful dribbles. Liverpool made it difficult for him, and although he did get pushed off the ball once, it was a significant improvement compared to Casemiro. Collier and Ahmad both did themselves proud. I thought De Ligt looked right. That was me scraping the barrel for positives, and I think, considering he's a kid and that's his Premier League debut, and if you compare his performance to Casemiro, it was a lot better as well. I was really disappointed with Bruno. I love Bruno Fernandes. I always protect Bruno Fernandes, but I was incredibly disappointed with Bruno Fernandes. Yes, his performance was... Bruno Fernandes was one of the worst players on the pitch. Casemiro was the worst player on the pitch. Bruno was probably second, and I like Xerxes, but he should have had a goal, probably 2. Those 3 players did not perform today, and people are going to write off Xerxes, but look, I'm not going to write off Xerxes. I watched him at Bologna. I know there's a good player there, but Rashford should have 2 assists and Xerxes should have 2 goals, and to be honest, Szoboszlai should have a goal, so it should have ended 4-2 if everyone took their chances, and Liverpool still would have won, but at least we'd have felt better knowing that Xerxes would have 3 goals in 3 games. No, he doesn't, because he missed 2 chances as well. But we do isolate the 6 horribly, and Kobbie Mainoo and Delot started to invert in the second half, which was a tactical change, and with Kobbie Mainoo dropping deeper, and we did look better in build-up. But there was concerns there, 100%. Now, I do think Manuel Ugarte does fix a lot of the problems we noticed, but as Ten Hag says, we might not see Manuel Ugarte for months, which is absolute rubbish. That I like Ten Hag, and I want to be lenient. I want him to succeed, but it's really hard. It is really hard to get behind Ten Hag when he makes the same mistake over and over again. When he is making comments like we might not see Ugarte for months. It does not help himself. He does not help himself one bit as well. Kamikaze midfield tactics must change. The tactics were appalling. Let's be honest, Arne Slot got his tactics spot on. Liverpool are fitter than us and athletically better than us and technically better than us, so they always have that advantage. But Arne Slot got his tactics spot on and Ten Hag got his tactics completely wrong. Yeah. That's the thing. Is Kona able to play? Is he too young? He's 18, but I don't think United are going to throw him in the deep end this early on. I think that would be a little bit unfair as well. Bruno kept making bad decisions. All match was Erik Ten Hag's fault. Yeah, look. I think elements of it was Bruno made bad decisions. We should have scored 2 goals. It wasn't all Ten Hag's fault that Casemiro gave the ball away. It wasn't Ten Hag's fault that Mainoo got pushed off the ball. It wasn't Ten Hag's fault that Xerxes missed 2 chances, that Bruno made horrible decisions. Of course, elements of it was on the player. But yeah. I think there was definitely room for improvement as well. People are being like, Collier's not good enough. So a guy that's 19 years of age making his Premier League debut against Liverpool, you're saying is not good enough. Collier had a better game than Kobbie Mainoo. Collier was better than Kobbie Mainoo in that second half. Are we saying Kobbie Mainoo's not good enough for Man United? No. So why are we judging Collier off that one game? People are saying Collier's not good enough. Collier was better than Casemiro in the second half, much better than Casemiro in the second half, and people are coming out now saying Collier is not good enough when he was better than Casemiro in the second half. He had a better second half than Kobbie Mainoo. Are we saying Kobbie Mainoo is not good enough because of the Liverpool game? No, because we've seen Kobbie Mainoo multiple times and we know he's good enough. So I don't know why we're coming to conclusions that Collier isn't good enough off that game where, to be honest, I thought he handled it quite well considering the circumstances. I do think I don't think he was amazing. I don't think he solved problems, but I thought he did a better job than Casemiro, which, let's be honest, wasn't hard. But look, we need to score goals. We need to take chances. And you know what's mad is I think Man United rank 4th for XG in the league, but last for goals. We rank 4th for XG in the league and last for goals scored. And I think that is a worry as well. We're not clinical. And Rashford hasn't even had a shot this season, which is just even more concerning as well. But anyway, let's get into Ten Hag's comments. Let's get into the news. Erik Ten Hag, when asked by a journalist that the problem is his coaching, not the players, he said, "You are sure? I don't think so, or you wouldn't win trophies like we did. And to beat big opponents, I'm sorry for you. After City won the most trophies, I'm sorry for you." Erik Ten Hag, post-match interviews, does not help himself. I'm sorry, Erik, but if you want to get the fans on side, you need to say my midfield tactics were shite and I did run the midfielders out to dry. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to stop bringing up the FA Cup every time we lose and start actually saying, maybe there's an issue in the midfield. Because, as Jamie Carragher said this, if you're happy with your manager, you don't start speaking to other managers and start flying around Europe speaking to agents in the summer. You look at INEOS, you look at the reactions, you look at how they had conversations with multiple managers. I really want Ten Hag to succeed. I think he needs to run the games of Ugarte, the new team, the transfers. For sure, there's no point sacking a manager really early on in the season. But I do think INEOS will be there to sack him. I think if it goes wrong and they were not doing well by Christmas, I think INEOS will be there to sack him. They were looking at other managers. Ruud van Nistelrooy can be the interim because he's already at the club. You know, INEOS will be there to sack him if things go wrong as well. You know, someone said Ten Hag doesn't have the balls to drop Rashford. He keeps starting. It's laughable. Ahmad should have started. I agree that Ahmad should have started on the right and Garnacho should have started on the left, depending on form. But let's not act like, you know, Rashford was worse than Garnacho. He got booed for subbing Garnacho off, and I can understand that because Ahmad and Garnacho should have started 100% on form because they've been better than Rashford. But Rashford had a better game than Garnacho. I love Garnacho. I really do love Garnacho, but he did nothing. Rashford created 3 chances, 2 big chances. Garnacho didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. Compare Garnacho and Ahmad. That was the right sub to take Garnacho off Ahmad. It absolutely was, and I like Garnacho, but for me, at the moment, he looks better off the bench because of the impact he can make against tired legs. And I think, to be fair, Garnacho on the left, Ahmad on the right, that's absolutely fine. But I do think that Ten Hag got it right taking Garnacho off instead of Rashford. And I know he got booed for that, but Rashford had a better game than Garnacho. And the way I see it is, Garnacho should start over Rashford on current form, but you sub off whoever's having the worst game. Rashford had the worst game against Brighton than Ahmad, so Rashford was being rightly subbed off versus Brighton. Garnacho was having a worse game than Rashford versus Liverpool, so Garnacho's rightly subbed off. Don't think Ten Hag got that wrong, if I was going to be totally honest. But Ahmad should have started for 100%. Ahmad should have started. I mean, look, Ahmad was just levels above everyone else. Ahmad, when he came on, was just a level above everybody else as well. You know, I love Garnacho, but Garnacho got bullied. Garnacho got absolutely bullied. And Nana had a bad game as well. 101 likes. Big up everybody in chat. Let's go for 800 likes as well. People saying Garnacho's not good enough. I think Garnacho will be good enough for United. I think Garnacho's a good player. I think Ahmad's a good player. I think we know Rashford can be a good player. But we definitely need to improve in the final third, 100%. You know, there's a lot of issues there that we need to improve on. But I do worry for Ten Hag, and I do worry for Ten Hag's job, and I do worry for Ten Hag's future as well. Trevor says, Alice is one of the few realistic Man United fans. Thank you. What about Onana? Yeah, wasn't impressed with Onana. He's got to prove himself this season, Onana. He's got to prove himself this season because he wasn't good last season, but he had a few good games last season. But yeah, not been good enough this season as well. But let's dive into the next bit. So, obviously, Sky Sports add the add-ons. We're only ever going to pay 72 million for Rasmus Højlund if he gets a 20-goal Premier League season. So, just to put that into context, Rasmus Højlund would be 64 million. Casemiro, we only pay half the add-ons. He'll be about 62 million. Mason Mount's 55 million. Then Euro's actually 42 million, rising in add-ons. 6 million of them are achievable add-ons. You know, if you actually take away the add-ons, it's about 500 million. But Sky Sports love to put the add-ons for Man United and no other club. But you do look at this. And you do look at our major signings under Ten Hag and the players we've signed under Ten Hag as well. And I have to say, not good enough. 85 million on Anthony, too expensive. Højlund's, you know what? 50 million on Højlund, it's a good deal. I like Højlund. Believe in him. 70 million on Casemiro, 85 million on Anthony in the space of a week. Absolute shambolic business. 60 million on Mason Mount, shambolic business. Can't even stay fit. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Mason Mount signing. 1 year left on his deal. We shouldn't be spending 60 million on him, especially if he doesn't start in our best 11. I like Mason Mount. I think he can be a good player for United, but he was a 25 million signing. Yanni Euro, fine. Lisandro Martinez, fine. Ugarte probably could have got him a bit cheaper, but fine. We really need him after that Casemiro performance. Andre Onana, yeah, probably overpaid by 10 million. Delict, good price. Xerxes, good price. Mazraoui, good price. Malacia, good price. But Anthony and Casemiro, you think that we spent over 150 million on Anthony and Casemiro? 150 million on Anthony and Casemiro. That is concerning. That is absolutely concerning. Those transfers are terrible. Do you know what? I want to read this one out. There is no fight or passion. A lot of egos in that team. When the chips are down, they surrender a lot of individuals, no leaders. And I agree with half of what you're saying. I don't think the problem was an ego problem, but I do think the problem was a mentality problem. When we went 3-0 down, the heads dropped, and it could have been 4-0, it could have been 5-0, because the 10 minutes after we went 3-0 down, the heads dropped. And I felt like that team lacked confidence. I felt like that team lacked leadership. And I felt like that team lacked the mentality and belief to turn it around. And there's a mental issue. I think whenever we go 1-0 down to Liverpool, there's a mental issue where the team just sink. And I don't think it was egos. I think Casemiro, posting some stuff on his Instagram story We'll talk about that. Isn't the most impressive, but he has every right to have an ego with what he's won. I get that. I don't think it was an ego issue, but I do think it was a mentality issue because I didn't think we had the fight. Liverpool were more aggressive. Liverpool worked harder. Liverpool had the fight. Liverpool wanted it more. Liverpool were more confident. They were more up for it. That's what it was. Liverpool wanted it more. Liverpool worked harder. I think that's what it was. If I was going to give my honest opinion as well. But these transfers are shocking as well. Should United have gone for Chiesa, get another winger in? I think when he was that cheap, we should have maybe looked at it. Maybe they just want to wait until next summer and go all out for a winger, but next year we definitely need a winger as well. Concede a goal, then capitulate. It seems to be a problem of us as well. You know, they got Chiesa for 12 million. Yeah, I mean, they need to stop rubbing that in as well. But look, it is worrying as well. You know, Rabiot and Ugarte in midfield. I'd rather Ugarte and Maino than Ugarte and Rabiot. But I think if Eriksen goes for depth, considering Eriksen and Collier were the only midfielders on the bench, and Casemiro's putting in that performance, and Eriksen's got the same legs as Casemiro, and he can't replace Casemiro, and it's only Collier that can replace Casemiro. Obviously, Ugarte's coming in now, but if something happens to Maino, there's no one that can really replace Maino. I do think we need another midfielder. I wouldn't be surprised if we looked at a second midfielder in January, or did make a move for potentially Rabiot as well. The 60 million amount, yeah, is crazy. INEOS should have signed Ugarte weeks ago. The defeat is on them to an extent, but the thing is, I think Ugarte would have been hung out to dry in that game as well. It's all Lindelof's fault, Maguire or McFred, exactly. You know, people are saying it's Rashford's fault, but, you know, Lindelof's fault, Maguire's fault, McFred's fault. We need to stop blaming one player every time we lose. You know, we blamed De Gea for a year, we blame Ronaldo for a year, we blame Pogba for a year, McFred for a year, Maguire for a year, Lindelof for a year, Rashford's the new scapegoat. We need to stop blaming one individual player every time we lose. Individual players need to do better and step up. We had no Maguire starting today. You know, it was Maguire's fault we lost versus Brighton, apparently. No Maguire starting today. You know, people are saying it's Rashford's fault, the guy that created 2 big chances. We're not going to fix Man United by selling Rashford, like we didn't fix United by selling De Gea, like we didn't fix United by dropping Maguire, like we didn't fix United by selling McFred. You're not going to fix United by doing that. So we need to stop doing this one thing where I think a lot of Man United cope with loss by thinking it's a simple fix. A lot of Man United fans have convinced themselves that if we sell Rashford, we're going to win the league, and that it's a simple fix, and that it's going to save us. And it's like, well, no, because then it just means that we've got to rely on Anthony more, and Rashford, despite being crap, is better than Anthony. You know, it's not about, oh, you know, Rashford being dropped. Ahmad should have started 100%, but gone actually never a good game. And a lot of fans convinced themselves, well, if we sell De Gea and we get a ball-playing keeper, we're going to be a good team again that can challenge. We didn't. If we sell McFred and, you know, we're going to be a good team again that can challenge. No. If we drop Maguire, we're not going to concede goals. No. So people do the same, oh, you know, it's Rashford's fault. We need to stop doing this thing where we blame one player every time we lose and think that just dropping that one player is going to make a difference, and realise that there's about 6-7 changes that need to be made, and one or two of them is on the manager. One or two of them was on the manager, because Ten Hag, the players weren't good enough. And the players need to step up. They didn't give the energy. They didn't give the fight. But let's be honest, Erik Ten Hag should have done better tactically. Erik Ten Hag should have done better tactically. Liverpool didn't even get Supermende in the midfield and bossed it. Ryan Gravenberch never played as a 6 in his life. Arne Slot comes in and he makes Ryan Gravenberch 5 as a 6. No one could play as a 6 in the Man United role. No one could play as a 6 for Man United, because the midfield structure is hanging everyone that plays at 6 to dry. Now, Casemiro's bad, but the structure does not help him. The setup, the structure, the positional sense of what we're asking our number 6 to do means it's an impossible job for every number 6. Arne Slot has got the perfect midfield dynamic and balance, and then he's put Ryan Gravenberch, who is a number 8, playing as a number 6, and he's able to do a good role because of the balance around him, because he's found a structure that will bring out the best in Gravenberch. And that is the difference between Slot and Ten Hag, and that is a little bit worrying. But Slot is willing to really adapt his system and change things and make sure he can get the best out of his current players, or just Ten Hag is playing this midfield system that is just continuously not working. And it is a little bit of a worry right now as well. Alice, would you bring in Rabiot? I mean, at this rate, yes, because I think we need another midfielder for depth. I'm not the biggest fan of Rabiot, but I think when you look at the midfield depth, you know, Eriksen and Collier were the only midfielders on the bench for Casemiro, and Eriksen doesn't make a difference with his legs, and Collier's 20, then yeah, I would bring in Rabiot, because Mason Mount's probably going to spend half the season injured, and if we get any injury to Maino, we're absolutely screwed. You know, even if Rabiot's signed, he's not going to be fit for months, and that's worrying as well. Erik Ten Hag is the only Manchester United manager to have lost 3 Premier League games, home games, by at least 3 goals in the space of a year. And it is worrying. Those statistics are worrying. There is a lot to be worried about, and that's what I don't like, if I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. Anyway, I want to continue on into some bits and bobs. and some other stuff, some transfer news. We'll talk about the manager. I want to talk about his comments on Ugarte because it does worry me, his comments on Ugarte. It really, really does. I think, is he not going to play Ugarte? But guys, if you are new, please do hit that subscribe button. We are 20 subscribers away from 91.7k. We're on the road to try and hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the season. So we're 20 away from 91.7k. So please do subscribe if you're new. Do hit that like button. But let's dive into this next news story. Let's dive into the next bit information coming out. People are saying sack the whole team. It honestly feels like we've just had a good summer. We've made 5 signings and we need a complete new rebuild again. I still think next summer we need a midfielder. Next summer we need a left back. And next summer we need a winger. How will you cope at the Emirates with Sterling? Not worried about Sterling, mate. Same. I think it's a good signing for Arsenal because I think Martinelli's been rubbish. And I think he's an alright player. But Sterling does not worry me. Do you know what? That will fix up in time for Arsenal, hopefully. Hopefully we fix up in time for Arsenal and get revenge, and Garnacho can score and be on side this time as well. We want Højlund and Euro fit again, 100%. 100%. Do you know what? I'm not glad that Lenny Euro is injured, but I'm glad that Lenny Euro wasn't a part of that, because imagine an 18-year-old starting that game and the media attention he'd have got. I'm actually glad that Lenny Euro wasn't able to be a part of that, because he wouldn't be getting hounded. I'm very glad he wasn't able to be a part of that as well. Rabiot walks into our team. He keeps Tchouaméni and Camavinga out the French team. Well, the French manager has a few agendas. He absolutely walks into ours. I mean, I think with the midfield depth we have, we could take Rabiot as well. Who is to blame? Ten Hag is the only Man United manager to have lost 3 Premier League home games by at least 3 goals in the space of a year. It's not a good sign. Now, it's a mixture of the manager. It's a mixture of individual performances. But Casemiro's not happy. Casemiro's wife posted this on Instagram. Do I think this is a bit of a silly post? Yes. Do I think that it's a bit of an overreaction? Yes. But Casemiro's wife is posting all his Champions League things on there. Casemiro's not happy. Casemiro got subbed off at halftime for a kid who's been given his debut. He got subbed off at halftime, not for Ugarte, for Toby Collier. And you can see why he's not happy. But let's be honest. Casemiro was the first player with multiple errors leading to goal. Multiple times dribbled past in a single Premier League game in the last 8 seasons, and he did that in just 1 half. First player with multiple errors leading to goal, multiple times dribbled past in a single Premier League season, and he did that in just 1 half. You know, he was right to be subbed off. Casemiro's first half versus Liverpool. 2 errors that led to Luis Diaz goals. Lost possession 13 times, the most. People were comparing Casemiro to Steven Gerrard and Luis Diaz to Torres, saying that partnership was unbelievable because Casemiro, you know, he really upped out Luis Diaz as well. He really did. The midfield wasn't good. Maino didn't have a good game. Bruno didn't have a good game, but Casemiro was comfortably the worst because while Maino did make an error leading to goal, Maino did not get the ball away as much. Maino did actually resist the press, and Maino made a few good passes, a few good moments. But Maino was caught out of possession. Bruno really had a bad game, but Casemiro, man, he was rightly subbed off. He was absolutely rightly subbed off. It was a poor game from Casemiro as well. But I do think Ten Hag's system doesn't help Casemiro. I do think that Ten Hag hung Casemiro out to dry. I think while Casemiro was bad, we know that he's not good on the ball. We know that he's not good in build-up, and Liverpool knew that, and Liverpool just used him as a pressing trigger. And that meant that it was an impossible job for Casemiro because whoever played in that role was going to struggle. Even Rodri would have probably put in a shocking performance in that role. But Arne Slot targeted Casemiro, made him a pressing trigger, and yeah, Casemiro was bad. Casemiro was real bad. But at the end of the day, you know, part of that was on Ten Hag and part of that is on Casemiro. And a big part of it is that our midfielders are not athletically fit or fast enough to deal with Liverpool's midfield. And we got dominated athletically in the midfield. What United need is someone that is really athletically good in midfield. What we needed was to not sign Mason Mount and to sign Alexis McAllister, because Alexis McAllister is better in deeper areas than Mason Mount, which has always been more of a priority. But if something happens to Bruno, he can play as a 10, like Mason Mount, but he's better on the ball than Mason Mount, and he's just as good as Mason Mount off the ball. We should have signed Alexis McAllister instead of Mason Mount, if I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I really do think we should. Alice, stop saying Casemiro alone was bad. Garnacho was worse than Casemiro. Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, Garnacho all had awful games. Casemiro would cause the goals by his errors, but yeah, you know, he wasn't the only player that was bad. Basically, the whole team was bad. Delo, all right. De Ligt, all right. Mazraoui, all right. Rashford had an all right second half, but yeah, the whole team was bad, to be honest. You know, Maino didn't have the best game. Bruno didn't have the best game. Casemiro was poor. But yeah, like I think Garnacho was really bad as well. You know, Xerxes missed his 2 chances and didn't get involved enough and was a bit slow on the ball. Do you know what? We were just slow on the ball. Like in general, overall, we were way too slow on the ball. We did not get the ball moving quick enough. And Liverpool were aggressive. Every time we had the ball, they were closing us down. They were pressing us. Liverpool were very aggressive and we were very slow on the ball. And that was definitely a big issue as well. Liverpool got McAllister for 35 million. We paid him out for 60 million. Do you know what? If I could go back in time, I would make us get McAllister for 35 million instead of spending nearly 60 million on Mason Mount. Absolutely. We liked McAllister, but we went for Mason Mount. Apparently, Ten Hag chose Mason Mount over McAllister because I don't know if McAllister would have chosen us over Liverpool, but we had the Champions League pool, you know, 2 summers ago, last summer. We had the Champions League pool. I think had INEOS been here, we probably would have gone for McAllister over Mason Mount. Had INEOS been in the door a year earlier, I think the 35 million on McAllister we'd have gone for instead of Mason Mount, if I was going to be totally honest. And I think just that could have made a difference alone, because I don't think Mason Mount's a bad player, but he doesn't start in our best 11 and he's never available as well. Why are people re-envisioning Ollie at the moment? Ollie ball was crap. I know that it's bad. I know it's not looking good at the moment. But yeah, people are re-envisioning and now trying to make out that Ollie ball was just unbelievable because of this. And it's just like, no, let's not pretend that Ollie ball was unbelievable just because Ten Hag ball was bad. But there is a bit of Ollie re-envisionment on there. And look, I liked Ollie, but I do think he had to go. But I do think we learned once Ollie was sacked, actually, maybe Ollie wasn't as bad as we thought. And maybe the issues were to do with the club and the players as well. Erik Ten Hag's lost authority in the dressing room. It's Erik Ten Hag's tactics. It ain't sustainable. It's simple. Ten Hag sends 6 men forward in possession and vacates midfield. 18 months of this, by the way, and Nana's trash. And I could see what you mean. Players aren't good physically, but Erik Ten Hag's tactics are running out of midfield to dry. I worry about Maino this season. I worry about Kobbie Maino this season because Erik Ten Hag's tactics are going to hang Kobbie Maino out to dry. They really will. But anyway, let's talk about Ugarte. This is what Erik Ten Hag said on Ugarte. I'm not Harry Potter. Manuel Ugarte hasn't played in this season so far. He needs to build his fitness. It will take weeks, maybe months. Why will it take months for Ugarte to build his fitness when he played 7 games in the Copa America in summer? Anthony did not train with Ajax. Anthony forced to move. Anthony came to United when he missed a few games for injury, and Anthony starts Ten Hag in his first game back. So Anthony signed late in the window. He starts after the international game, first game back versus Arsenal. Anthony plays, yeah? So why is Anthony allowed to start right away as soon as he's fit, who had no pre-season, but Ugarte can't? That is favouritism from Ten Hag. Ugarte played 7 games in Copa America. Ugarte's been training with Manchester United. Ugarte's been training. Anthony didn't go to training to force the move. That worries me. Because Ugarte is not the type of player that needs to build fitness. He's not an injury-prone player. He's not a Mason Mount. And this is what worries me about Ten Hag. This here. And this is why I said this worries me. This worries me. Ugarte played 7 games this summer and has only ever missed 5 games in his career, 2 due to illness. Not sure why he'd need months. Ten Hag wanted to keep McTominay instead of signing Ugarte to just hope he doesn't get the treatment Ahmad got last year. That being said, that Casemiro performance may leave him with no choice. This worries me. Ugarte played 7 games this summer and he's only ever missed 5 games in his career, 2 due to illness. Not sure why he'd need months. Ten Hag wanted to keep McTominay instead of signing Ugarte, so just hope he doesn't get the treatment Ahmad got last year. That being said, the Casemiro performance may leave him with no choice. Why is he saying it might take months for Ugarte to play? That it does worry me. I want Ten Hag to do well. I want Ten Hag to succeed. I want Ten Hag to turn it around. I said I'm going to back the manager, but I did say 3rd seasons when I judged Ten Hag. I made a promise when we signed Ten Hag. I made a promise when we signed Ten Hag that in his first 2 seasons I'll stay Ten Hag in no matter what. Because I know the biggest issue was United. The hierarchy, the way we operate. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that when Ten Hag came in, I said first 2 seasons I'm going to remain Ten Hag in no matter what, unless we get relegated, unless it's really bad. And I said, for the first 2 seasons I was Ten Hag in. I said Ten Hag should have stayed. We should have kept Ten Hag this summer. I said we need to give a manager a 3rd season to judge him. Ten Hag has had a good window. He's now got a good board operating around him. This is Ten Hag's make or break season. This season, I will be harsh on Ten Hag. First 2 seasons, I said I'm going to back the manager, whoever the new manager is, whether it's Ten Hag, whether it's Poch, for 2 years, because I know that the club is the bigger problem than the manager. I know the players are the bigger problem than the manager. But now INEOS of him, now Ten Hag's had 3 good windows, and now Ten Hag's in his 3rd season. I will judge Ten Hag. This season, I will judge Ten Hag harsh. Last season, I was saying Ten Hag and I was lenient on Ten Hag, but this season, I will be harsh on Ten Hag. And I want him to succeed. I want to see how he does against Southampton in the next few games, and if he changes it up. But if we get to Christmas and he's not changed it up, and we're still seeing the same United we saw last year and the same favourites playing, then Ten Hag will need to go at Christmas time. If he's not changing it up, and if the same favourites are playing, with the back in his head, he'll have to go at Christmas time. And I want Ten Hag to do well. I want him to succeed. I am not Ten Hag out. But when he says stuff like this, it might take months for Ugarte to play. This is because he wanted McTominay to stay and he didn't want to sign Ugarte. If it was Anthony, he would have played Anthony right away. This screams of favouritism. This worries me that he'll get the Ahmad treatment as well. And that worries me. And as Anders said, a good manager would not let our midfield look like that for too long. And that does worry me. Alice, I say bench Rashford, play Garnacho on the left, Ahmad right, play Amas left back, Delo right, push Martinez into mid with Maino until we get Ugarte in, play Maguire and De Ligt at centre back. Really? That's an interesting one. I would personally say Mazraoui's done well at right back, Delo's done well at left back. I'd play Martinez and De Ligt at the back. I would play Ugarte in midfield because I believe he will be ready. I'd play Maino, I'd play Casemiro, I'd play Højlund, I'd play Ahmad and I'd play Garnacho, but I would potentially swap Rashford and Garnacho around because I do think Ahmad's been our best winger so far as well. People are saying Van Nistelrooy in. Someone's saying Ten Hag's talent's ID shite. He wanted McTominay to stay, says it all for me. And I think the fact that Ten Hag wanted McTominay to stay instead of Ugarte does worry me, because you look at that Casemiro performance. Can Eriksen play there? No. Amrabat's gone, so he can't play there. Maino could play there, but is that his best position? And who's going to play as an 8? Eriksen, McTominay going to play as an 8, but we know they're not good enough. McTominay's only good off the bench. At least Ugarte can fill in for Casemiro. If we'd have kept McTominay and not signed Ugarte, it would just be McTominay playing for Casemiro or Maino playing for Casemiro, because we don't have Amrabat. And I'm glad we got Ugarte in. You could see watching that game just how desperately and how much we needed Manuel Ugarte. I think everybody could see it as well. I'm worried that we banking on Ugarte, he drops a stinker, and I know this fan base, other players destroyed. I'm worried that we banking on Ugarte drops a yeah. Do you know what that worries me? Because I have to say, I know what you're saying, Ray. This midfield structure is a joke. The midfield structure at Manchester United right now is a complete joke. Had Ugarte played that game in Casemiro instead of Casemiro, I'm not saying that Ugarte has a good game. I like Ugarte. I think he'll do well. I think he'll be an improvement on Casemiro, but who's to know if Ugarte would have a good game? Because when you look at it, and when you look at the whole situation and everything going on, you're absolutely right. How are we meant to know if Ugarte's going to have a good game or not? How are we meant to know? Because that midfield structure would hang Ugarte out to dry. I mean, Ugarte's done very well in that kind of structure for Amarin, but that midfield structure is going to make it difficult for Ugarte. And Ugarte could have a bad game for United, and the fans will get on Ugarte's back. He'll be low on confidence, and all of a sudden, the new signing's deemed a flop. People are trying to call De Ligt a flop, but De Ligt actually had a good game. Like, if you actually watch it back, Martinez didn't have a good game. De Ligt actually had an alright game when you actually look back at the game. But you're right. I do worry that the midfield structure is really bad. Ugarte comes in, Ugarte drops a poor performance, and fans turn on Ugarte. His confidence goes, and that does worry me, because I do think the midfield structure is going to make Ugarte's job very difficult. I think he could be an improvement on Casemiro, but I don't think it's just that Casemiro is awful. I do think that Ten Hag is not helping Casemiro through his tactics, through his structure, through a whole lot of things as well. If he doesn't play Ugarte, INEOS will definitely sack him. I think so. If INEOS feel like he's not playing Ugarte, potentially. Now, I do want to talk about the news. I do want to talk about the transfer news. We've obviously got some updates on Adrian Rabiot coming in. We've got some updates on some other stories coming in as well. And look, maybe we do make a move. I do think when you look at midfield depth, you can see why Manchester United would potentially want a striker, 100%, particularly when you look at midfield depth. Not striker, sorry, second midfielder. So we do want to talk about Rabiot here. This was said in regards to Rabiot. Ajax rate Christian Eriksen as the perfect rare opportunity signing. Ajax and Eriksen's camp have been in lots of contact. The expectation is that after Manchester United versus Liverpool, Ajax will discuss the possibility of signing him crucial hours ahead. So Ajax are discussing signing Eriksen, but United are making it difficult. It's now been said that United are looking at free agent Adrian Rabiot, which could give Christian Eriksen the opportunity to leave United. So there's a possibility that because they're free agents, because Ajax's transfer window hasn't closed, and because he's obviously a free agent, we can get Rabiot in. So there's a possibility that we may look to sell Eriksen and bring in Rabiot. Because Rabiot is a free agent, we can go out there, we can sign Rabiot. Ajax's transfer window is still open. They can sign Eriksen. There's potential for movement there. I think I'd do it. I'm not the biggest fan of Rabiot, but I think he's got more legs. I think he's a little bit more suited to Ten Hag's system. And I think while Eriksen can offer stuff on the ball and Eriksen can offer control on the ball, and there's elements of Eriksen's games that I like, 150k a week off the books, doesn't have the legs. We're lacking the legs in midfield. I think if Mason Mount's going to be injured the whole season, you're going to need Eriksen. But if Mason Mount can sustain some fitness after this injury, then there's not really much need for Eriksen. And I think I'd look at Rabiot because he's probably more suited to the number 8 role as well. So I think I would do that, depending on the offer that we get, depending on Rabiot and his demands and his wages. I do think if I was Manchester United, I would consider that as well. Alice, let's. Ruud van Nistelrooy advising Ten Hag, 100% part of the problem, sack them all. Really? Come on. Ruud van Nistelrooy is a good coach. I trust Ruud van Nistelrooy as well. Ugarte alone won't fix the donut in the mid. We have to be more compact. Yeah. Ugarte solves problems. Ugarte will be an improvement on Casemiro because there's elements of Ugarte that would have been more suited to that game than Casemiro for sure. But you're absolutely right. Bringing in Ugarte for Casemiro and Ten Hag not changing the midfield structure or tactics, you're not going to expect Ugarte playing as well as Gravenberch did yesterday. Do you know what I mean? That's many things as well. So someone said this, and I want to have a look at this comment. Swedish Rumble said this, and I thought this was an interesting comment. Here, I've not read it all, but the start looks interesting. So let's see what he says. He says, I have to 100% agree with this. So many are saying we aren't seeing any style of play, no improvement over last season. The talk about no style of play is just embarrassing. Sure, it was horrible, but there are some undisputable truths. He's saying this. Last season, Liverpool had 62% possession and 28 shots at Old Trafford. Today, United had 53% possession and the shots were 8 versus 11. No improvement. Erik Ten Hag can certainly be questioned, but we saw a ton of improvement. Statistically, we look better, but we were overrun. There was no way around it. 90% of Liverpool's starting 11 has played together for 4+ years, and they have a full bench. We had 2 players making their Premier League debut today, and very little flexibility when selecting the starting 11. One wing was the only real decision, and that is true. This showed Xerxes had a really tough task to take a lot of passes with Van Dijk pressing him from behind. Garnacho is out of position at right wing. Casemiro cannot take a pass when pressured, and we've got back 4. Surprise, never have played together before and have no left back. Well, Casemiro was taking all the heat, but at the same time, we passed the ball to him in situations that just don't suit him. Why? The back 4 had 0 pre-season together. It's their first game together. These things come from building chemistry over time. And also, Maino, the kid is amazing, but he is a kid. He's 19 and he's 12 months older than the kid we signed from Mali. There's always a lot of talk about selection and substitutions. Last week, not playing Xerxes was one of Erik Ten Hag's biggest mistakes. At the same time, he's young and inexperienced. We would have much better off with a false 9 and Mount today. Amad was great when he came on, but wasn't great in pre-season when starting against Liverpool. In fact, Tsimikas had a number. Would Amad have been great if he started? Football is about opinion. Team selection sub should have been discussed and second guessed. And I'm not saying that Erik Ten Hag haven't made mistakes, but I think it's a bit easy to get carried away and think that it's dead certain that X, Y, and Z would have happened if the manager did that. And I think it's true. At the end of the day, ultimately, it's like Adam putting it. Liverpool finished 20 points ahead of us last season for a reason. There won't be any shortcuts. Everyone's favourite Ange got 1 more point than Erik Ten Hag this season, and he's got a much easier schedule and got to build his own squad immediately. Has never finished higher than 5th in the Premier League. And I think there's truths there. I think there's truths there as well. But it's Erik Ten Hag's 3rd season. Shouldn't we be better now? Look, we've got no handicap for having a manager for 3 seasons. What does that mean? It's Erik Ten Hag's 3rd season. And I get that. I absolutely get that. I think it's a mixture of it was bad, it was not good enough. Ten Hag needs to fix up. The midfield was a significant problem, but when you look at stuff that what Swedish Rumble has said, and you look at these comments, you have to say, look, Liverpool have a far superior team. We conceded less. We're better going forward, but we are lacking. We are lacking in a lot of elements, and I think this is fair. Maino was gassed out for the last 3 games. Surely everyone noticed that, probably on Erik Ten Hag. Erik Ten Hag needs to do better. Erik Ten Hag needs to be better, but I do think that Swedish Rumble rationalises this quite well. I think he rationalises this quite well because it was bad, but I do think that people like Jamie Carragher will make it out to be worse than it is. You know, Ange Postecoglou gets hailed, whereas Ten Hag is getting slated, and there's definitely a difference in treatment as well. And that does concern me. But listen, people, I want to thank everyone for tuning into today's live show. I'm going to wrap up the live show here, but please hit the like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.